recording on here. Welcome to the Pack Mentality Podcast. I'm Matt Banwart. I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California. I'm co-hosting this today with my lovely wife, Caitlin Banwart. I've been coaching for 16 years, and Caitlin has been coaching for 7 years. We created this podcast with one goal in mind, and that was to make fitness education accessible, engaging, and effective for everyone. And if you found value in any of our discussions on this podcast, I do have a small request. Please share this podcast with someone you know who also has a passion for these topics. After all, we learn better, grow faster, and reach our goals when we do it together. So share now, inspire someone with the gift of knowledge and motivation. Thank you so much for your support. Now, on to the show. So, you've been doing CrossFit for about a year, but you still can't do a pull-up. We're going to tell you exactly what to do. So Caitlin and I are going to be going over how we would build someone up from the ground up, someone with 0 pull-ups, and we're going to take you exactly through the framework on how we've done it with our current clients and also what we work on ourselves, because just like you guys, we have started from ground zero, and we're going to give you all the information in this podcast today. Also stick around because we will have a free guide to give out on this podcast. So stick around and listen. We will give that out sometime during the podcast. All right. So number 1, you need to identify the biggest obstacle holding you back from getting a pull-up. So is it your core? Is it your grip? Is it your upper back strength? Caitlin, what is the most common thing that you see that holds people back?
The number one thing that holds people back is not fully committing, first of all, to getting or achieving a pull-up or getting to that goal. So full commitment is needed, number 1. And then when you're starting to identify your weaknesses, I think all 3 generally go together, but probably number 1 is upper back strength, because I think that just kind of incorporates already the grip strength, right? To develop your upper back, you're going to have to probably hold something. And then you're going to have to brace your core in order to isolate your upper back. So you kind of get, the other 2 together, but all 3 are just as important. Yeah. I definitely see the weak areas as being, I agree with you with the upper back and the lats, the grip. What other areas do you see kind of specifically like on someone's body that really need to be dialed in before they can even start attempting like a kipping pull-up? Oh, like specifics on their upper back?
Yeah. Oh. If we can get more specific. So we said upper back. So what specifically about the upper back is lacking?
Oh, their overall development of their shoulders, their delts, their traps, just their posture in general. I think a lot of people just lack upper back posture strength to hold their shoulders back. So if you can't even do that.
So scapular retraction.
Yeah, exactly. Working on scapular retraction and maintaining upright torso, like that already is difficult. So a lot of people have to work on like just banded reps first and mind muscle connection. That's kind of what I call it when they can actively activate, all their upper back muscles and like feel it and feel what that is like to hold it and then relax. So yeah, number 1 is just developing scapular retraction.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I remember specifically when I was working with my coach, he said, he told me that one of the biggest detractors of all CrossFitters is 1, scapular traction, and 2, posterior chain. So specifically the glutes and the hamstrings. So he worked with me a ton on my scapular retraction. Mm-hmm. And he did that specifically because, CrossFit is a very rapid fitness program where you're very fast muscle contraction. So the time under tension isn't that long. Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, we need to have more muscle development. So we need to implement different exercises, and we'll kind of go into that more detail later on in the podcast.
Yeah. And then working on like tempo and holds and whatnot. And I think banded work is, usually overlooked, but you're not going to get tired or sore from doing banded retractions, but it also will help develop those small muscle fibers, help warm them up, help keep them healthy. Like everybody always gets, shoulder pain from being too weak and trying to do a very advanced skill, whether it be just anything overhead or anything upper body. Like I see it all the time. And I'm just like, you guys need to focus more on that recovery process, joint mobility, and keeping like all the small muscles in your shoulders like healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, and can you go a little bit more into the specifics of what you mean by the banded work?
Yeah, so I do this probably almost every day. I mean, especially on an upper body day. I mean, I'll do, tees, face pulls, chest pulls with a band, attached to a static pole or the rig or something. And so and doing at least, I don't know, anywhere between 20 and 30 reps of each one, and just really working on contraction, holding, and then also fast reps, and really trying to feel my muscles warming up and then coming together. And I do this all the time, and I don't think, again, that you can really get tired from doing it, but it keeps everything healthy. I don't have a lot of shoulder pain. If anything, I just have tightness.
That's awesome. All right. And do you think people should be doing kipping pull-ups or strict pull-ups first?
Oh, absolutely, strict pull-ups. I mean, I know everybody sees the kipping pull-up and it just looks really cool, and I can do more. I'll be able to do more in the workout. That's what I hear all the time. And I'm like, it's not about doing more. It's about doing it right. And then it's about getting stronger to do it. Like, I wouldn't want to do something just to do more reps of it. I would, first of all, want to do it right and safe, and so that I don't get hurt.
Yeah,
right?
We do recommend that you do at least, you're able to perform 3 to 5 unbroken strict pull-ups before you even start learning kipping. And fun fact is that even the founder of CrossFit, Greg Glassman, said in an interview back in 2016 with Lewis Howes, is that how you say his name? I think it's Lewis Howes. He asked Glassman if he had any regrets on the way he built up CrossFit, and his answer was, if he were to do it all over again, he would devalue the kipping pull-up. And furthermore, he said that trying to do kipping pull-ups when you can't do strict pull-ups is wrong.
Yes.
There's no black or white here. He said it is wrong.
Yeah. And
period.
I think, CrossFit gets a bad rap. I mean, there's all those videos out there making fun of CrossFitters doing kipping pull-ups. And I think that's only mainly because everyone knows strict pull-ups is harder. And
everyone knows that in the back of their mind.
Everybody knows it's harder, and it's like a milestone. It's something that I think everybody wants. I've never heard somebody say, "Oh, I don't want to do a pull-up." Everybody says, "Oh, that'd be cool," or I'd want to be able to at least do one. I don't think anyone has ever completely written that off as a goal or something to do in their life. And I think all body weight movements should be necessary. All adults should be able to do push-ups, squats, pull-ups.
Yeah.
Those are just standard movements, and to move your body weight is a standard.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's kind of get into a framework now of how we would train someone specifically towards getting that first strict pull-up. So first off, we have dead hang hollow body.
Yeah.
So this is really important because, if you can't even get the setup right, then we're not even going to be able to get the pull-up in the first place.
Yeah, just working on what do I call it? Top position, bottom position. So being able to hang comfortably in the bottom position of the pull-up, and then being able to hold the top position of the pull-up. So being able to know the starting point and the end point of what you're trying to get to, and holding those static positions, step number 1. And if we can't do that, at least for, I would say 20-second holds, that should be a minimum, and being able to do at least 3 sets. And that's something that I would have someone warm up with to get the joints prepped, and also a good opportunity to work on grip strength and core strength.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whenever we start training people, at least this is what I do with my clients, is I always train the end ranges of motion first. So I always train what that means is we train the start at where the starting point of the rep is and where the end point is. So for example, with a lot of my clients, I'll always start working with them with, let's say, a push-up. I'll have them do an FLR hold, and I'll make sure that if they cannot hold that for 30 seconds without dying, I'm probably not going to get them going through range of motion yet.
Yeah.
And then same thing with even squats or single arm rows, is I will make sure that the bottom position looks good, and then they can obviously hold the top of the position as well. So the next one is chin over bar hold. So again, we're kind of feeding off the same thing of the end range of motion, and this is actually a very difficult movement to perform, even if you already have a pull-up.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, when they do a pull-up, they do a pull-up very far away from the bar. And the problem with this is, you are chin over bar, but if there's that gap in that distance, you're not actually getting the full benefit of the scapular retraction, which we talked about earlier. So pulling into the bar and getting chin over bar is important to develop your upper back more. And then I mean, we can get more specific about sticking your chest out too. Instead of having concaved or rounded shoulders in, you should be doing your pull-up with your chest out and exposed.
Yeah. And what that does is it specifically makes activates the upper back more and the lats more. When you have a slight lean back or that kind of that puffed out chest, you get more scapular retraction, which is what we want. And a lot of times what people think is that the strict pull-up is specifically vertical, and so they're completely perpendicular with the ground trying to go straight up, but they're not getting the right muscle activation to actually get there.
Yeah, I actually saw a video by Ben Bergeron the other day talking about why you shouldn't lean back in a pull-up, because he was talking about like end range of motion and the dead hang, and that people aren't working on good posture alignment if they can't fully extend at the bottom. And I mean, I kind of disagree with his video, because I was like, you're not really talking about the lean back being inefficient. That has nothing to do with posture or being able to fully extend. It has to do with
muscle activation.
Yeah, or mobility. He was kind of referring more towards mobility in that sense. And I was like, okay, this is a very contradicting video, because everyone knows that you should lean back to do that scap pull up, that scap retraction. And then, yes, it's a vertical pull straight up. But he was completely saying, like, don't do the lean back because it's not good for full extension at the bottom.
Yeah. I disagree with that as well, because there's actually a specific exercise that my coach had me do called lean away strict pull-ups.
Yeah. Oh my God, so good.
Yeah. So I would do a pull-up, and it's kind of like exactly what we're talking about, but in reverse. So you would do just a pull-up however you want to get your chin over the bar, but then you would actually push yourself and lean away very slowly. So that way you could get that full scapular retraction and then lower yourself back down to the starting position.
Yeah. And I mean, you see people doing those like, on the bar, they like lean away and they're in a plank. Yeah. Like almost like, so that's a total like upper back strength move.
It's very difficult to do.
Oh my God, so hard.
Yeah. So let's move on to jumping negative. This is, or you can even call this an assisted one. This is actually my favorite way to get people strict pull-ups once they have that baseline established of the chin over the bar and the dead hang established, is I actually like to do an assisted chin over bar, and then I'll actually like almost like be there as a spot and let them lower themselves as slow as possible. But that's not always possible. So sometimes you have to do it yourself, which is with the jumping negative.
Yeah, honestly, in my opinion, at least with my clients who I've been working with, a jumping pull-up is very difficult to do, especially a jumping negative pull-up. I have so many female athletes who jump up and then just boom, drop like a rock. Yeah. Like there is no resistance. So in my opinion, jumping pull-up is a little bit more advanced. I have started now incorporating more seated pull-up, just because it takes away at least half the body weight of the person, and they're still getting full range of motion, and they're able to do negatives in that sense. I've also found maybe doing banded negative also as good, because it takes away, again, partial of the person's weight. Yeah. And just makes it a little bit easier, because again, like I said, so many people jump up and then just drop like a rock. Yeah. And they have no core strength or grip strength to kind of hang on. So feet assisted, we rarely ever do this. It's very difficult, I think, to show and understand. I think a seated pull-up is easier, but you could also do a feet assisted negative. And like anything else, guys, if you have real good intent with what you're doing, and if you're trying to contract and on the eccentric or the down motion really hard, you'd be surprised how much you'll get out of that. Even me today, like I'll do negatives, and if I'm really sore but I got to get my pull-ups in, I'll just really scale it down and emphasize contraction. And I mean, I get just as much benefit, I think, out of that than if I just kind of did it as a jumping negative pull-up.
Yeah, I love what you said there about intention specifically, because the only negative I do see with the seated pull-up is that I do see when people get tired, they start using their legs a lot more.
100%.
And it looks like a squat more than it is a pull-up. Yeah. So that is why, and I did this with Pinky. This is how I got Pinky her pull-ups, is that I would, but Pinky was already pretty close. Yeah. So what I would do is I would assist her. So I would use two hands and push her over the bar, even though I was already pretty close. She would probably hold for about 1 to 2 seconds with her chin over the bar, and then she would lower slowly, and I would spot her. And what that allowed me to do is I would know exactly how much time under tension she would specifically have, and then because if I had her doing seated, I have no idea kind of where they're at in terms of like what they can actually handle in terms of load.
Yeah. Time under tension. That was a great thing that you mentioned, Matt. you guys should be working anywhere between 3 and 10 seconds on negatives. Okay. And yes, 10 seconds, like slow, 1,000 kind of thing, being able to do that. And so again, scale down the movement. Even if you can do strict pull-ups, you'd be amazed how trashed you'd get from a tempo strict pull-up. And then you'd probably need a band too. If you did a 10-second down, I mean, that's really hard to do. And that's a good way to build strength, especially if you're someone who, I can do strict pull-ups. Like for example, for myself, I can do over 10 strict pull-ups. My max is 15. I'm still trying to, on that road to get to 20. So I've had to play around with different variations of pull-ups. And depending on, how trashed I am from the week, I might have to really scale it down to like a green, a black band, like to take a lot of weight off. But again, tension, time under tension, like those things are trump, I think, anything else other than, I mean, if you just want to skip it, that's not the point. Like you should still work on it and do something scaled down instead.
Exactly. And some science behind the time under tension, just so everybody knows, is that a lot of people think that you get strength when you have a lot of muscle damage, and that's not necessarily true. A new study actually recently came out, and I'll put it in the show notes, is that it's actually muscle tension that gets the best results in terms of strength and hypertrophy, or hypertrophy being a fancy word for size.
Yeah.
So that's why at our gym we do so much tempo work, especially like, for example, right now we're doing our squats. So we do tempo squats, we do pause
bench,
squats.
yeah.
And what that allows us to do, it actually allows us to use less load.
Yeah, it's nice.
And give you the equivalent of a higher load, which is not only safer, but it's better for your tendons, your ligaments, and also the longer time under tension you are, the greater chances you are of actually getting stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really have enjoyed the tempo work that we've been doing. And a lot of people have told me that their positioning has gotten a lot better because they've had to slow down and really feel the lifts, feel the contraction. And so like, wow, like I'm amazed at how much better like my form is in the squat or in the bench. Yeah.
And tempo is something that's very easily overlooked when it comes to body weight movements. Everyone thinks it's something that needs to be fast, rapid, people, bang out fast push-ups, air squats, pull-ups, whatever.
Yeah.
You can slow those down and get extremely good benefit. For example, one of my favorite workouts to do when we travel is to do tempo push-ups. On my own, is I'll do sets of 10. I'll do 10 sets of 10 tempo push-ups, and I'll go about 3 to 4 seconds down, and I'll come up fast, and I have to do those 10 reps unbroken, and then I'll rest however long I need to in order to maintain that for 10 sets.
Yep. Really good.
All right. Moving on to horizontal chest bar row.
Yeah.
This one's good.
Well, I think, so we've talked a lot about vertical pulling. I mean, not a lot. We could definitely talk about more. There's so many things that you could do overhead, but then what's lacking, I think a lot of the times, and especially in CrossFitters, we rarely ever do horizontal pulling. I'd really like to incorporate more horizontal bar row.
Helms rows.
Yeah. Well, like I just mean like ring rows and horizontal rows.
What about bend over rows?
Yeah, bend over rows. Okay. But like instead of pull-ups all the time, doing feet elevated ring rows or feet elevated horizontal rows and moving your body weight still, just in a different direction instead of always straight up and down.
Right.
Like also would be good. I think you're talking more about like accessory movements with a barbell or with dumbbells in order to get stronger at horizontal pulling.
Yeah, 100%. What other benefits are there to doing the horizontal row that you've seen?
With the body weight one?
Yeah.
Oh, just having more body awareness and core strength for sure, because everyone's hips completely dip down and they're trying to like, kip the rep again and use their hips to get it up. And what you need to do is learn how to use your upper back and be contracted. And then realize, guys, that this is going to reflect over into so many other areas that you're probably lacking. For example, when you row, a lot of people don't know how to activate their upper back or like retract their scaps to get a good horizontal pull in the row.
Great point.
And so like these are just little things that if you start doing more accessory work and more bodybuilding, you'll understand like, oh, like this, I should feel this when I'm doing other things too, right? So I just think people just think like, oh, this is just very one-minded or one skill. But in reality, this is going to help so many other things. Yeah.
And people don't realize how much the scap and upper back is involved in other movements. So for example, let's say like an overhead squat.
Yeah.
You are stabilizing with scapular retraction, which is extremely important. So you do those horizontal bar rows, guess what? Your stabilization overhead will be more effective. So for another good example is something like wall walks and even bench press.
Yeah.
Your scap retracts when you do bench press. press and stabilizes
A lot of
when you do
people don't
wall
think that.
walks. So all these things are going to transfer to other movements, especially pressing movements. Just because you're not moving through that same range of motion as a press doesn't mean you're not using the same muscles as the press.
100%. I mean, you can also argue that it's for lower body movements. I mean, the deadlift, a lot of times
Yes.
you see people round their back. It's their core strength too, but like it's because their upper back is weak,
Yeah.
and their upper back cannot support the load when you come forward. And so therefore the scaps, disengage and the lats disengage. And you think like, well, my legs are strong enough to lift it. And I'm like, yeah, maybe your legs are, but your back isn't.
Yeah, we see the same thing even in back squats.
Oh yeah, your back, exactly. Like the upper back, it looks like if you were to, people should start videoing themselves from behind, because you can physically see that your upper back, it cannot support the weight that you're holding right now, and it's kind of like crumbling looking, or it's sliding, like the bar is sliding.
Like the shoulders are like rounding
Yes,
forward.
they're rounded. So, I mean, I'm going to start incorporating this in the next 3 weeks, building up to our benchmark week at the gym. We are retesting our back squat, and I did this the last time. We're going to have everybody do walkouts, and you're going to have to walk out heavy weight.
I like that.
And, so many benefits from doing that. But one of them is being that your upper back will get stronger, and being able to support a heavy load, something that like you're going to try to PR for. Being able to hold it for 30 seconds, like you would be surprised how much benefit that would get.
Awesome. Fantastic. And now let's kind of move on to, let's say that someone has these 3 to 5 strict pull-ups, and they're still kind of struggling with the endurance of doing kipping pull-ups or getting more strict pull-ups. What's the first thing you would tell them?
They need more volume at a very scaled variation. Like just because you can do, again, 3 to 5. Okay, great. Now, how do I get from 3 to 5 to 10? Well, you're going to have to scale down to a banded pull-up, like all these things that we've talked about, and just accumulate more volume, because you're not going to get more advanced reps by doing 1 or 2 advanced reps a day. Like, does that make any sense? Probably,
Yeah.
It doesn't. So you have to scale it down, and you have to incorporate more accessory work, more strength work. What people don't realize is that, I think you said this before, kipping pull-up or pull-ups in general is not a skill. It is a strength.
Yes.
Right? So you need to develop the strength in order to do these things. Everybody thinks that pull-ups, kipping pull-ups, butterfly, anything is a skill. Ring muscle up, it's a skill. Yes, but also most people don't get that skill because they're not strong enough to do it yet.
Exactly. And the problem is, if you try and work on only the skills leading up to it, you're going to get really tired really quick, because guess what? You don't have the strength or muscle endurance to handle to doing all these advanced skills. So, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the single most biggest misconception that I see when I work with my clients, and when I see at all the CrossFit gyms I worked at for the past 16 years, is that everyone thinks that body weight movements are 100% skills. And they always come to me, they're like, Matt, I think it's my mechanics. I think it's my timing. I think it's my dog. They blame something other than the fact that they're just weak.
Jinx. No, but seriously, like, I hate to tell this to some people sometimes when, they want to do some skill work, and I'm like, okay, great, let's work on the skill. And I have to show them very modified stuff. They're like, no, Caitlin, like, I just need help. I can't figure out how to get the rhythm and whatnot. I'm like, I'm sorry, I hate to tell you this, but you're just not strong enough. Like, you need to get stronger. And they're like, oh, really? And I'm like,
you have to do some really boring work first.
Yeah, like you should be able to do, I don't know, like 35-pound single arm dump for a female, I'm talking.
Yeah.
Like at least, the standard, like 35-pound single arm dumbbell row for 10 reps for 5 sets pretty easily. I think that's like a pretty decent amount that you need to at least get to before expecting results from being able to do pull-ups. Like there are some weights that people need to be able to hit first, as far as, lifts and dumbbell row and all those things.
That's very interesting. Can we dig into that a little bit more? Let's talk a little bit more about what your benchmarks would be for someone before they start attempting kipping pull-ups, like as specific as possible.
So yeah, like I just said, single arm dumbbell row, 35 pounds minimum, 10 reps, 5 sets, something like that.
And that would be 50 pounds for a guy, right?
Yeah, 50, 35. Like that's kind of like standard in CrossFit. I think that's one of the weights we always do. You should be able to move that easily and well.
Yeah.
Some bent over rows. I mean, being able to at least do 100 pounds. I mean, a barbell bent over row. So I guess for a guy, what is that, like 155?
Probably at least 155.
Yeah, at least
for reps.
For 10 reps, that's 5 sets again. You should work on some bicep curls, like being able to do more than just the bar or 15-pound bar.
I love bicep curls.
Like the bicep is heavily used in the pull-up as well. And I think something that, again, CrossFitters rarely do. So why not incorporate that a little bit more on your arm day and go over and do 3 sets of 10. And again, like accumulation over time. Okay. I'm not saying that you do it one time and you're going to get pull-ups.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because back in my day, well, in the earlier days, we're talking my day, we're talking like 2014, 2015, when I was training really hard. It's funny because I had to get out of this mindset of the dogma of doing something other than CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like back then it was like, oh, you only do CrossFit. Like we won't even touch.
You only do WODs.
Yeah. We won't only do conditioning and Olympic weightlifting and squats and deadlifts and pressing. That's it.
Yeah.
Even bench press was like off the table. It's like, no, that's just a bro thing. It's like, you want to go bench, go to 24. Yeah. And then when my coach started working with me, guess what? I started doing tempo bench press. I started doing Russian dumbbell step-ups. And I remember the first time I did Russian dumbbell step-ups, I looked around because I thought I looked weird because I was doing it at a CrossFit gym. And same thing, I did bicep curls. I did single arm presses. I did a bunch of bro, quote unquote, 24-hour fitness stuff that we used to make fun of. But then I realized all that stuff complements my CrossFit so much. And I'm able to take on more work because it's less harmful on my central nervous system and it's easier on my body. So I actually am getting more durability.
100%. Yeah. I really started noticing a difference in my aesthetics and in my performance in workouts and all of that when I started doing more bodybuilding style stuff and tempo and sets and reps and more volume and just a little bit every single day. Okay. I am notorious for this. I like overload days. So basically if it's leg day in group class, I'm most likely going to be doing leg accessory works as well so that I overload, that muscle group. And
plus
then,
you're already warmed up for it anyway.
Yeah, and I'm already warmed up. And so I like doing stuff like that. And I noticed huge differences in the last 2 years of my training by doing it this way. And my training has changed since, pre-babies to first baby, second baby, third baby now. Definitely a lot more bodybuilding, and I can see this as more long-term because again, CrossFit kind of takes a toll on the body. It's very intense, very impactful. I kind of find myself always going really hard, even when I don't want to go hard or I don't want to take a rest day.
Yep.
So
classic.
Yeah. But incorporating some bodybuilding has, I think, saved my tendons and muscles and made me stronger and safer in these complex movements that I'm trying to do now. And I have never in my life been able to do the things that I can do now.
Yeah.
Even before kids, I couldn't do ring muscle up. I couldn't handstand walk.
You couldn't.
I could barely do chest to bar pull-ups. I could not do a bar muscle up.
You could not do a bar muscle up.
Trust me, I could not do a bar muscle up. It was hilarious. I mean, open after open, there was bar muscle up and I could never do one.
You were pretty frustrated.
Oh my God. It was, and I couldn't do butterfly chest to bar pull-ups for years. And I was like, man, like, it's my timing, it's my rhythm. It's my strength.
Yeah.
And so I started doing more bodybuilding, and only now, which it's been at least 5 years, do I feel comfortable doing bodybuilding, number one. Number two, can I do, again, my benchmark weights, which is stuff that I was trying to do for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So everybody, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of reps, a lot of intention, and a lot of variety. Because the thing is, your body is constantly adapting to the stimulus that you're giving it. That's why you have to always change it up. And you don't necessarily change it up by just going heavier. You change it up by slowing things down, doing a different style, different movement, all those types of things.
Plus, it keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get bored as easily.
Yeah.
And it's really important to remember, though, that you actually need a specific program with progressive overload. Because if you're just doing random stuff, it's not going to work. Believe me, I've tried.
Yes.
Please don't make my mistake. Please don't do random workouts or just exercises just for fun.
Yeah.
Have some sort of a structure, have progressions, talk to a coach, because you're just going to end up spinning your wheels and then backtracking.
Yeah, and working on way too many things at once. Like I see this all the time where people just try to do it themselves, and then I just see them either A, working on the thing they like, or B, only doing one thing or just doing too many things all over and over and over again, and then so inconsistent. And so you need, a program, a structure, and actually follow it and like trust the process. Like even when it says something crazy, and my clients know this, they're like, Caitlin, really, like 20 reps, 5 sets. Are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I'm sure. And they're like, well, how much weight am I going to do? I'm like, body weight.
Yes, exactly.
Banded. And they're like, but I can do, and I'm like, no. Just scale it down, do more volume. Trust me, you'll get stronger. You will.
Exactly. There's so many times where, and I haven't even realized it until this year. And this just shows that I'm still learning a lot as I go, but there are so many variables that go into fitness in general that affect the outcome. And so you have to be as focused and dialed in as possible. And one thing that I've really learned about myself is that I hate wasting time.
Yeah.
So I would much rather spend a little extra time, not time, but I would rather consult with someone and pay a little extra money to eliminate all these different paths that I could go down trying to figure out on my own. It's just not worth my time anymore.
And it's going to be boring. Everybody, trust me, it's going to be very boring. You're going to do a lot of boring things and a lot of repetitive things, and you're going to week after week. I mean, again, my clients know this. We're going to do Bulgarian split squats, everybody, every week, all year long. Different styles, but guess what? We're going to get really strong because everybody knows that lift works and it gets results. And the same thing with single arm dumbbell row and all the things for pulling and upper body. We're going to do the same thing over and over again. It's just going to change up, and that's kind of how it goes. Like, that's fitness.
Because those are the biggest impact movements.
Exactly. They're compound movements. We don't have them. We're not professional athletes. We're just trying to get better with the time that we have, which is usually an hour and maybe an hour and a half. And if that's all you have, then you got to try and maximize that time.
Yeah. And it's really important to remember too that you're going to go for a while feeling like you're making zero progress.
Yes, and then
but it is working. I'm telling you guys, because this just happened recently to me, because I just recently started doing build and burn again. I recently started incorporating more bodybuilding because, I was getting kind of skinny and I want to put on muscle again. And it's not until like this week where I'm like, okay, my shirts are a little bit tighter again. My arms and shoulders are getting bigger. People are noticing. And now I'm like, it felt like went from zero progress. Like, why am I doing this? Am I wasting my time? Like, do I even bother? To where it's like, suddenly it's like, I notice a difference.
Yeah.
So, but it took some time. It took at least like 6 weeks minimum for
and
me to start seeing results.
How many times a week?
3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah. 3 to 4 times is the minimum. If
Sometimes
you have a goal and you're not doing said goal or working on said goal 3 to 4 times a week, you will never achieve the goal. I think I've said this before in another podcast. Like, it's not like, oh, I'll achieve it in 2 years or 1 year, whatever. No, you'll never achieve it. It has to be 3 to 4 times a week. If you're not doing it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And let's maybe end with some tips now for people that they can incorporate into their training routine. And I'm going to give you guys one of my favorite training tips. And this is something that it doesn't matter if you have pull-ups or not. This is still one of my favorite ones to do. And it's 3 sets of 20 banded, unbroken, strict pull-ups. Rest is needed between sets. I have people do this all the time.
Get trashed.
And it gets results though. I had someone from TD come in today to do a PT session with me, specifically working on pull-ups, which kind of sparked the reason for this podcast. And I had her do the 3 sets of 20 as part of her strength. And same thing, that she thought it was a skill and she wanted to work on her mechanics. And I told her, hey, it's okay, but we're going to work on your strength because we're going to get the most benefit. So I showed her a bunch of my favorite strength moves to help her develop those weaker areas. And the 3 sets of 20 banded pull-ups was really good for her. And because she even said she was used to training in like the 3 to 7 rep range. I'm like, well, we got to change that.
Yeah, I think people are very uncomfortable going like any higher than 10 usually, even like 12. And they're like, oh, how many like are we supposed to do? When you start doing 15, 20.
Yeah, do 20.
And again, unbroken, like try to really just push yourself. It is hard and it burns. And you're like, wow, like I really want to, again, it's a mental thing as well as a strength thing. Yeah.
And just so you're aware, everyone, I started doing the 3 sets of 20 using the thickest band at the gym, the black one.
No, the blue one.
The
thick blue one.
Yeah, I did. I started using that one. And even that was hard for 3 sets of 20 unbroken. So don't like swallow your pride a little bit, reel it in and realize that this is going to benefit you long term.
Mm-hmm. And identifying your starting point is super important. Like, so like, I think working with a coach and being like, hey, like I need to figure out where I'm at. And then having them show you the progression, like, hey, okay, so you're on, the thick blue band right now. Your next step would be try to get to the black band and then the green band and having that mindset of like for some people, they can't even do horizontal rows or seated pull-ups properly. And I'm like, okay, like we really got to scale this back. You're not really at this. Some people should not be doing banded pull-ups. Some people are not strong enough to even do banded pull-ups or jumping pull-up. So again, I think identifying your current level and then the progression from there is really important. I think we should all kind of do that.
Yeah. And I really like what you said about talking to a coach. That is so important. And this is something I wish I did years ago, because I can't tell you guys how many times in different realms of my life that I've tried to figure out on my own, only to end up spinning my wheels. And then once I finally bit the bullet, talked to a coach, how much time they saved me. And this applies to not just fitness, but applies to business. It applies to social media, even applies to this podcast. So I did a podcast course, and that saved me so much time. And I'm like, okay, I know kind of what to do now. So believe me, it is worth it, because the biggest thing that a coach gives you is perspective.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're always limited by our own perception. Like, we think we need to do this. I mean, how many times have you talked to an expert and they're like, no. They're like, I can't tell you how many times I've had that. I've had a conversation with them, like, hey, do you think I should do this? And they look at me and they're like, nah.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You're not ready for that yet. Or you haven't even done this yet. How can you do this? And then because they have perspective, and they can give me context on how to actually proceed, or the best path for me personally moving forward based on what they've seen.
100%. I agree. I asked a coach. He's right in front of me, Matt. I said, how am I going to do this?
Sometimes you don't listen to me.
I don't.
I've been telling you for years that you had to squat every day. And guess what?
Hey, I finally fixed that.
And guess what happened?
Also with the ring
what
muscle-ups.
happened?
Yeah.
Did you get stronger or not?
I did. Yeah. So, I mean, but that's when I finally asked students hey, so how am I going to do this? Squat every day.
I am the best. I know everything. I'm just joking. I'm still learning, everyone. So real quick, before we wrap things up, everyone, we do have a free 6-week pull-up guide that Caitlin has put together herself. It is an awesome program. We do have people that have used it before, and they've gotten their first strict pull-up, and they've actually gotten multiple kipping, big sets of kipping pull-ups from this program. So it works for everybody, even if you have 0 pull-ups, or even if you have 20 pull-ups and you want to even get better. This program is definitely for you. So all you have to do is follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit on Instagram, and then comment pull up on any post on there. I will see it, and I will DM you and send you your free 6-week pull-up guide. And before we wrap things up, we have one last topic we want to touch on, which is grips.
Oh, yes.
This is a great subject, because I think that this took me a long time, kind of like I said.
Oh my gosh,
to
years.
Before I started using grips. And I think that this is something that's almost a necessary piece of equipment for every CrossFitter.
100%. I mean, years. Seriously, we did not use grips, and we'd see people using grips. And grips have really evolved over time, and they're so much better now.
Yeah, so much better.
I mean, they used to be really uncomfortable back then. And I mean, anyway, everybody should just suck it up for a month, have some bad scores, spend some time doing your accessory work, wearing your grips. They also work on dumbbells. You'd be amazed how
they're actually fantastic.
Yeah, it'll save if your forearms are taxed from the workout and you use your grips doing dumbbell rows. I mean, it saves my grip all the time. It's it's like using, what is it called? The straps, the weightlifting straps.
Yes.
It's the same idea. Yeah. So practice using them, and
it is worth it.
It's like anything else. Everybody knows you have to break your shoes in, right? It takes a while to get comfortable in new shoes. Well, it's going to take a while to get comfortable wearing grips. I mean, no one's used to wearing something on their hands, so it's going to take a while.
Yeah, it is awkward at first.
But seriously, nobody and I did this too. I mean, I know exactly how they feel. I don't want my scores. I don't want my work.
That was my reasoning as well.
I'd be like, Matt, but my workout, I'm going to have to do 3 sets of 5 instead of just unbroken.
Yeah,
but
I can usually do this easily.
Or are you going to tear your hands? Yeah, probably will tear my hands though.
Yeah.
Okay, then just wear the grips. And when I finally broke the grips in, I mean, I can't possibly go back. I don't even know how you guys use no grips. I don't even understand that concept anymore.
I 100% agree with you, because I was like, what is this whole grip thing? I don't get it, because I'm old school. You never wore grips. You just tore the hands and we're all bloody like a real man. And then I realized that's stupid, because it affects the rest of my life. And also I can't really...
Then you can't train.
I'm not
you can't
effective.
Work out.
Yeah, I don't have as good of workouts because I'm nursing my hand for a week.
Yes.
So it's not worth it.
So then you had to do leg day every day, and nobody wants to do that.
Exactly. And when I try and wash my hair in the shower, I'm dying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it's not fun. So I think just bite the bullet, make the commitment to just work on it, take the hit, like, and don't get frustrated too. I think people just get really frustrated and dude, like 1 month now in perspective of the whole year is, is nothing. So if you, and again, you're going to get better. So
yeah, suck it up, bro.
Yes. It's a mentality thing. It's a mindset. It's just a commitment. Like, just do it. I think Bear Complex has the best grips. I've used them for a couple years now. I started with Roo grips, and that was the kangaroo leather type of grip.
Are they even around anymore?
I don't know if they're still around, but that's what I started with. And, that's kind of the grip that got me started. And then from there, I think I just went straight to Bear Complex, and that's kind of all I've had. You've had the RX grips. And
I did not like those. Yeah,
and then there's like a Victory grips, I think, is another one.
Victory grips are very similar to the white grips that we have now.
Yeah, I think those are really stiff on the wrist part, where it wraps around and has the Velcro.
It has a different design. So
I don't really like that one. And
there's like some Amazon off brands, and I did not like those at all. They were cheaper, but I did not like them.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and say Bear Complex has the best grips. And so if you're looking for a pair of grips, you can order them on Amazon or just on their website, and, save your hands.
Yeah. Can we actually backtrack a little bit and talk about what grips are actually for? I don't think we actually defined that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. It's, for pull-ups, and it's to hang on the bar longer, number one. And number two, to save your hands.
Yeah, from tearing.
From tearing.
The friction.
A lot of them come with holes, without holes. I don't think you need holes at all. No. I think they work better actually when you don't use them and you flip them over the bar, and you get it really deep in the wrist part, and it kind of creates a good torque on the bar itself, and allows me personally to do more reps, whether it be strict or butterfly pull-ups. I'm able to do more regardless.
No, I agree with you 100%. Nothing else needs to be said.
Yeah.
You covered everything I wanted to say. So that's perfect. And also, everybody, if you're listening to this and you have grips or you want to order some and you're at our gym, feel free to come up to us anytime, and we'll be more than happy to show you how to use them and show you how the style we like to use and how we learn how to use them. And yeah, so just come up to us. We'll definitely be more than happy to help you out.
Yes.
Fantastic. Any other things you want to chat about before we wrap things up on the pull-ups?
There's so many things that we could chat about more, but I think it would just get a little bit long.
Right. 100% agree. Well, that was awesome. Everybody, don't forget about that free guide. Head over and follow us at Red Wolf CrossFit, and we will send you that guide. Just make sure you comment pull-up, and I will send that to you. Well, thank you so much for listening. If this was helpful, please leave us a 5-star review so that way we know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit, and also follow me at Red Wolf Matt, and follow Caitlin at Rusty the Red Husky, and DM your questions or content suggestions there. Until next time, good luck. Have fun.
Nailed it.